back, class. Mr. Rasmussen here. This is lesson 10A, and in lesson 10A we're going to talk about introduction to bones. So where we're going in our class now is we are switching gears. We're done talking about general biology topics, and now we're talking about body systems. So we're going to take it one system at a time, and the system we're going to look at first is our skeletal system. And so we're going to start by looking at our skeleton. Now, I think in this lesson, my guess is you're going to find out that you learn a lot more than you thought you did, or you know a lot less about bones than you think you do, right? Because they're just there. They keep us here. They keep us from falling into a pile of skin. There's a lot more going on with bones than we think. So there we go. The first thing I want to talk about is the functions of a skeleton. So why do we need a skeleton? And yes, the obvious reason why we need a skeleton is support, so that our body doesn't fall apart. So we have some structure that can keep us upright, so we don't fall down into just a pile of muscle and bone, or a pile of muscle and skin. But our skeleton does a lot more than just supports our body structure. It also protects our organs. So it keeps our heart from being attacked or being collapsed by pressure. So right here, this is a whale skeleton. It's protecting its internal organs. Over here, another thing that skeleton allows us to do is it allows us to move. Without a skeleton, imagine how hard it would be to try to move your body without any sort of joints or any sort of rigid places. Like, it's great that we have a bone here and a bone here and a joint that our muscles can pull on to move us in really coordinated actions. So this skeleton system adds a lot to our movement. Our movement wouldn't be possible without a rigid skeletal structure and joints that allow us to move only at certain places. That's really important. Our skeleton also stores minerals for us, and we'll see that. We store a lot of minerals that our body is going to use. And also, our skeleton creates cells for us. And the big one that our skeleton creates for us are red and white blood cells. So skeleton actually creates our red and white blood cells in the marrow, and so we'll look at that as well. There are two types of skeletons I need you to know about. Pretty simple, back to 7th grade biology. There is exoskeletons, and those are skeletons on the outside. And then we have endoskeletons. Endoskeletons are skeletons that are found on the inside of our body. Humans have an endoskeleton. Most insects have an exoskeleton, along with arthropods, spiders, crabs, those types of organisms, which are insects also fit into, have that exoskeleton. Okay, there are two skeletal systems. So when we look at bones, we'll be looking at bones and whether they're in one of these two skeletal systems. And the first skeletal system is the axial skeleton. So the axial skeleton is located, so the axial skeleton contains the head, it contains the neck, it contains the sternum and ribs, and it also contains the spine here, along with a small part of the pelvis. So that is our axial skeleton. Our second skeleton that we need to know about, or the second skeletal system, is what's called the appendicular skeleton. And these are what extrudes from the lateral side of our body, so away from the middle or towards the lateral side. So these would include our shoulder and arm girdles, right? Our shoulder girdles and our arms, and then our pelvic girdles and our legs. So anything off to the sides of our body ends up making up our appendicular skeleton. So there's the axial skeleton, includes everything medial in our body, skull, spine, ribs. And then the appendicular skeleton includes everything off to the side of that. Okay, we have two types. There are a bunch of different types of bones. Excuse me, not two, but there are a lot more. So we have types of bones, and so when we look at these in lab, you're going to also need to identify what type of bone it is. Not just what bone it is, but what type of bone it is. And we divide these up by their shape. So there are bones like this one here, the femur bone. That's a long bone. Long bones have this large central region of the bone here, and they're long. Another type of bone is a flat bone. This is our scapula, or what makes up our shoulder blade here. This is a flat bone. It's kind of hard to see from this picture, but when you look at it in the lab, you'll notice how it's got a large flat surface. Another bone that would be a flat bone would be your sternum right here. Irregular bones are kind of odd-shaped bones. Now, to most people, most bones kind of look irregular, but this is the category where we don't know where to put stuff in. So irregular bones, and this is a picture of your cervical vertebrae down here, or one of the bones that makes up your spine, and that's an irregular bone. And then the last type of bones are short bones, and these short bones are found typically in your wrists and ankles. So these would be your carpals, and then the ones in your ankles would be your tarsals. So these tiny little bones, and there's actually a bunch of them here, so those would be considered short bones. So those are the types of bones that you'll encounter. You'll encounter long bones, flat bones, irregular bones, and short bones. And then we'll look at the skeleton from there. All right, if you have any questions, class, feel free to ask me. Have a good one.